Hi, I'm Geno. We are very proud of the program we have built in Connecticut. This show is about the very special women that have made UConn basketball what it is today. Joining me are three-time Big East Player of the Year, Kerry Bascom, who helped propel UConn into a contender in the late 1980s, and Nykesha, who helped lead us to our first national championship in 1995 and left school as Connecticut's all-time leading scorer. Well, here we are, Kerry Bascom and Nykesha Sales. You couldn't get two more opposite people sitting here next to each other than you two guys. I got to tell you, I got to take my glasses off to make sure that I can recognize the two of you. When we were recruiting, both of you guys, and you both have interesting stories, but when we were recruiting you guys, there was a lot of similarities in the recruiting process. Why don't you tell, Kerry, all our fans out there, what the recruiting process was like for you?
Being recruited by Connecticut was actually pretty good. I was bombarded with a lot of phone calls, and I'm not really like a talker on the telephone. And I know that Connecticut had called the house and had talked to my father and pretty much said, if you want in this running, don't really call her. Leave her alone. You know, as long as you're just kind of sending her the letters to say you're still interested, you should be good, but don't call her. The more you call her, you're going to drop quickly, pretty much. I know that you spoke to probably my father more than me.
I did.
And when it got down to picking my schools, I said, yep, these are the ones that I want. And he said, for what purpose? And I explained to him my reasons. And he said, and what about UConn? And I said, well, they pretty much asked them to do what I asked them to do. Don't call. There's not much that's going to change from the first Saturday to the next Saturday, so don't call me.
I called her. I got her on the phone because I remember CD said, you got to call her. Give her a call. And I talked to her for like 10 minutes, and I hung up, and I called Chris Daly, and I said, don't ever ask me to call her again. I said, I'm not talking to her anymore. She's the worst person in the world to talk to on the phone. It's like one-word answers, boom, 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 boom. Now, when we were recruiting you, you were the exact same way.
Hated it.
Hated it?
I hated it. I hated it because I had to be in the house and wait to talk to people. Like, I wanted to be out and about. I wanted to be at the rec. I wanted to be outside playing. I wanted to be doing whatever. But when I had to sit in the house and wait for coaches to call, and then I'm not like you said, I don't like to be on the phone like this. What are we going to talk about? You know what I'm saying? Like, y'all adults, I'm a kid, like, what are we going to talk about? So I remember UConn was the only school where I had to have a specific time where I had to be home to take your call and Coach Daly's call. Like, Coach Daly was like, she got frustrated with me, and she made me, look, we got to work something out. And so, but the letters, I'll be totally honest, I didn't open a lot of them. They were sitting there. I mean, I just didn't like the process because I was like in a cage. I was in jail.
Right. So you end up at Connecticut cause?
Because the home visit. Being totally honest, I'm going to be totally honest, the whole show, I was definitely not going to go to Connecticut. Like, that was like my last choice, really. I visited all the schools, you know, and I was going to, when I went to visit, it wasn't basketball. Like, I was going like, oh, you know, the football team is cute, or like, oh, there's a lot of stores off campus. You know, it was nothing basketball. But then you guys came to the house, and, you know, it was similar to this, you know, your swag, you know, and the other coaches were there, and it was like, the stuff you talked about wasn't all basketball, which I loved. It wasn't all about what I can do for your program, or where would I be, you know, playing on the court, or, you know, we could win championships. Your presentation was a lot different than a lot of other coaches. I like that you never badmouth any program. Like, you would ask a question to see my answer, but even though you might have known if it was true or not, you never badmouth any of the other coaches or the programs or saying, no, that wouldn't work for you when the other coaches were. And that's the one thing that, like, I was taken by. I was like, this is a really humble guy, and he's coming in to me, and his presentation is to me as a person, not just a basketball player that can help him win a championship, basically.
So you end up at Connecticut, Kerry, because
I think a lot of what Nykesha just said. I'm a small town girl. There's certain things that I just kind of live by, and everybody else came into my home basically promising me the world, and we're going to make you an all-star, and you can play any position you want, and just all the things that really didn't really affect my decision. For me, I wanted to go to a place where I could play. I wanted to be a freshman and leave the small town and where everybody expected everything. And I just wanted to be able to grow as a person and a basketball player and make a mark and be part of something. And when you guys came in at that point, everybody was asking me, UConn, that's a little cold up there. And like, no, not the UConn with a Y, like the University of Connecticut. But you came in and you said the exact same thing. You have your, swag going, and, you just sat there, seriously. And you answered every question that I had. And you didn't promise me anything. You hadn't won at that point, and you were just said, I'm not going to, you have to work for everything that you get here. If you don't work hard, you're not going to get anything from me, and that's where we're going to go. And if you want to be a part of that, jump on board, and if not. But you were pretty much the only one that really just sat there and told the truth. And I totally appreciated the honesty in the forthcoming of kind of your thoughts and where you wanted it to go. And I think our 4-year relationship kind of proved that we were going to sit there and say what we had to say to each other. Absolutely. And let the pieces fall where they may.
I remember the end of your freshman year. I don't even know if we have a game left or we don't have a game. But we're in the field house one day, and I said, Kerry, do me a favor. Start at half court and run to the three-point line. Because I thought, she looks like she should be a good shooter. But I think she took like 1 3, maybe none as a freshman. So I said, run from half court to the three-point line. So she runs from half court to the three-point line, and I throw her the ball. I did it 10 times. I told her to take 10 shots. She went 8 for 10.
From the three?
From 3. And I went,
Yeah.
Okay. Just do this a lot during the summer. I'll take care of the rest. She comes back the following year, and I go, all right, listen, here's what you're going to do. Every time you come down the floor and you're open, you're going to shoot a 3. And I think you ended up shooting like 46% from the three-point line and averaged 23 points a game. Like, we just discovered it, like right there, because I thought, like, maybe this will work. With you, it was going into the sophomore year, okay, Keish, no Rebecca, no Pam. Now you're in the starting lineup. You're not coming off the bench anymore. Now you're going to be expected to, like, get us another national championship. Now you can't be like, la da 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 da, whatever, whatever, whatever.
But in my mind, I was still la da da. I'm like, as a sophomore, you're like, all right, that's not my responsibility. Like, I want to come in, I want to help, I want to do what I'm good at, but I'm looking at the seniors and the juniors like, y'all better, get us together, get us riled up, because at the end of the day, it's going to fall on them. It's not, me. I'm still a kid. So I just didn't think like that. I think that's why I had a lot of fun through my years, because I never really put that pressure on myself. I just went out. I knew if I listened to you and I worked hard, great things would happen.
Coming up on Geno's Legacy, it was the layup scene round the world. Geno, Kerry, and Nykesha talk about one single basket that linked all 3 of them together forever.
When we played at the Palestra, and you're a senior, and I remember we walk in the gym, and NC State's the best team in the country. They're supposed to win it all. Clemson's really good, and then it's us. What were your thoughts? How were you feeling, if you can remember, when we beat Clemson that second game, and we're going to the Final Four?
Redemption. I remember it all. I mean,
going back from freshman year when you were like, this is miserable, to now we're going to the Final Four?
Well, you know, I think one of the biggest, one of the best, I don't want to say it's speeches, but one of the best talks you probably gave us that I really still, even today, stands out in my mind was before our first practice my senior year. And I had just been through a lot with losing. It was a tough road back for the second half of my junior year season. You know, feeling the guilt of leaving home, I mean, it was just everything. And the team was great, you were great. And coming back, we were sitting there getting ready for practice, and we're looking around the locker room, and you came in and you just said, you guys better get on board because we're going to the Final Four. And we all sat there and we laughed. We looked at each other in the cubicles beside, in our little lockers beside each other, and we're like, he's crazy. Because our goal wasn't the Final Four every year. Our goal was to win the Big East Championship and to get to the tournament and then to get to the Final Four. And there was no more of that. You came in and said, get on board because we're going. And it was really powerful because we knew that we were good because we had been in the tournament. We knew we could compete. But that stays with me. And you said some other things to us individually along the way, but that really stood tall because walking into the Palestra, we walked in, NC State was just finishing up their practice. They had on their, you know, #1 T-shirts and the whole, you know, shebang. And I remember
See you in New Orleans or wrote to New Orleans.
and walking down, and we were getting ready for practice, and you said, all right, what are we going to do? And we were ready. You couldn't. I wanted North Carolina State because I wanted to get to Clemson because I wanted to prove that we should have won.
Yeah.
And that I needed redemption myself. And that was just an incredible 2 games. And I mean, look, you talk about national championship. I talked about, you know, my father handing out subs outside of the field house to get people to walk into a game. And here we are, you know, heading to the first Final Four, which nobody believed but us.
Amazing.
Amazing.
Absolutely.
And before we get to the whole thing about your senior year, how much did you know about Kerry or anything else when you came to Connecticut?
I didn't know much, to be honest. I didn't know. I knew that there was, you know, a really great player that can just, you know, go out there and just a pure scorer. I didn't watch a lot when I was in high school, so I wasn't aware. I didn't go to any of the games, but I just knew that there was a player that, you know, can flat out score. And I knew about her a little bit because the number she wore was actually the number that I wanted.
Right.
So you know, you almost have to do the research, like, okay, why can't I wear this number? Like, who is this person? Who is this player? So I think that's when I did the research on her as a player.
Were you watching the game when Nykesha tore her Achilles?
Well, yeah, because you had called me a couple nights before, so I was prepared. However,
No. When she tore her Achilles against Notre Dame.
No, I didn't see it when she tore it. I heard about it obviously in the news and all over, but.
Were you trying to break the scoring record that day? Say yes, because I know you were.
No. You know I don't go out there and gun, but
I know.
That was a lot of points for one game. And I think I was averaging like, what?
You were averaging about 17, 18.
Yeah, so 20-some points.
You needed 28 or 29, I forget.
That's a lot of points. So I'm like, okay, maybe. But I wasn't forcing shot. I felt like, you know, I was just in the game, so, you know, at halftime.
But you were shooting more shots than you normally would.
Maybe a few more threes. No, but coming into the game, I just thought that was a lot of points.
It was.
You know, I wasn't averaging that many points, and, you know, I didn't want to just, you know, try to go out there. And
I think you had 20-something at halftime.
Like 24.
At halftime, 23 or 24 at halftime. So when you were at halftime, you're like, I can do this.
Yeah, like it was no question. Then, like, I could find 4 points or 2 points.
Somewhere.
Yeah.
So when you go up inside the lane, I'll never forget, you're in the lane, you go up, little jump shot, and the thing goes out. I know your first thought wasn't, damn, there goes the scoring record.
No, I didn't know I was hurt.
Right.
My initial reaction, I looked up at the ref and was like, how could you miss that foul?
Right.
Because I thought I was shooting and somebody ran into the back of, you know, like she stepped on my ankle, like,
right.
Come on. He looked at me, I remember it vividly. He looked at me and he said, there was no one around you. You know, and I was like, you know, I had to process that. And so I was like, and it hurt a little bit, but not really. When you pop, when you pop something, it pops, and it's not excruciating pain. But then my mind went to like, well, what happened? I never had a major injury. I might have had stitches before. That was it. So I didn't know what was going on. And I was sitting there and I was holding it, but it didn't hurt. Like I was squirming, like it hurt, but I think I was trying to process what just happened. So, I sat there and I remember, CD came out running, like, get up. Like, what are you doing? Get up. And I was like, I felt something pop.
Yeah, we knew. I kind of had an idea what happened. When I called you that night, or the next night, I forget when it was. Might have been that night.
It was a couple nights later.
Yeah, and I called you and I said, listen, I want you to know this is what I want to do. Were you expecting my call, or were you surprised? How?
Wasn't expecting it, but wasn't surprised. Because I think even in the few games that I was able to make each year, we were just talking about Nykesha and what a great player she was, and she was definitely going to break the record. And we talked about it. And I think, I heard about the injury kind of like through the news and, all of those type of things. And then you had called and said, hey, this is my thought. What are you thinking? And for me, it's a no-brainer. It's a UConn record. I happened to have it at the time. It wasn't a national record. It didn't affect anybody else but our school and our program. And I was on board. I had no problems with it. Talked to my dad and said, hey, Geno just called and this is kind of what's happening. He's like, that's really cool. And, and just everything. And then, at the time I was married. My husband and I were out for dinner. Didn't know it was that night of the game, and came home and was bombarded with like 20-something phone calls. And I'm like, what's going on with the machine? And the next thing I know, there's like reporters outside my house, people calling my father. Like it was a whirlwind. And I was coaching at the University of New Hampshire at that time, and we were at the University of Vermont, like
it was
2
crazy.
days later, and the next thing you know, they're in the lobby.
It was crazy.
So I'm like huddled, like wearing the same sweats as my team, and I'm huddled in the middle, and we're just kind of like walking.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was just well.
So you came up, you missed that shot, whatever, you come up 1 point short. And now we're going to Villanova. I talked to Coach Harry Peretta, and we orchestrate this thing. You get a layup, then we give them a layup. So we start the game 2-2. You get the record. Everybody in the stands, 4,500 people, goes crazy. They love it. Everybody's happy. The next day, the whole world ended.
Like everybody was happy at that moment, but then everybody had something to say the next day. It was just, and I know it was supposed to be a great moment for me, but I was upset because people didn't get the reason behind it.
Right.
The reasoning for everybody else was it was selfish. Like, oh, she wants the record. Like they're trying, but it wasn't. It had nothing to do with that. And like, other players would say about you, like they don't know you like we know you.
Right.
And we knew that wasn't the reason behind this record. So I remember being in a hospital and it happened, and I saw all, some of the negative news, and I saw the good news, but I saw some of the negative. And I remember calling you, I don't know if you remember this, and I said, Coach, just never mind, it's okay. Like, you can't do that. But, and it was like, no, and you made me feel so comfortable with the reasoning behind it that, I was okay with it. But initially I was a little.
Yeah. Well, if you had been a selfish player, and this is what people didn't understand, she averaged 24 minutes a game. Now imagine if she'd have averaged 27 minutes a game. She would have broke the record 10 games before that. So because you were unselfish, I thought she deserves the record, because it would have happened 30 seconds later. But what it did, I think, was it made people talk about women's basketball, not in a way that I had intended, but your agent, before he signed you, Lon Babby, goes, Coach, I got to tell you, man, you did a lot for Nykesha, because everybody in America knows her name now. So same with you. But it's unfortunate the way it played out. But in the end, the record got broken again anyway.
Well,
and that's what was going to happen anyway.
Records are meant to be broken.
Right. But I think, from my perspective, it was my record. I'm telling everyone I'm fine with it.
Right.
Then it shouldn't have been a story. And I think that through as long as it went on, even from my end, back home, it wasn't fair to Nykesha. But I think it's the whole thing. We're the UConn family. I mean, I remember, being recruited by you, and you said, I want to make this program North Carolina. Once you're in the family, you're in the family.
Not North Carolina women.
No, North Carolina men. But I just remember, but it was the family thing. It was
Right.
you're together, and we never had to play to each other with each other, but we're linked forever.
Right.
And it depends on the people involved. You know, if you got people like us that's involved in it, you get it.
Coming up, it's role reversal time as Nykesha and Kerry are the ones asking the questions. Geno's Legacy, presented by DeGiorgi Roofing and Siding, continues after this.
So after all that, and you two guys are tied in together forever for a lot of different reasons. Last thought. What do you want to know?
About you?
From me. What do you want to know?
This is what I want to know. Now, you're the type of people that person that, you get on your players and,
Yeah.
you might get on your coaching staff.
Yeah.
Who gets on you? Like, will really tell you, like, getting.
Right now, this guy in my ear, but
Like, who's the one person that, will just tell you like it is and get in your.
Chris Daly at work.
Really?
For sure. Every day that I say something or do something that I know is a little sketchy, I'm going to hear about it.
Now, do you bite back or you just listen?
Oh, no, I bite back big time.
Every time?
Every time. And then when she leaves the office, I go, she's
Process
right.
it, yeah.
She's right, yeah. I always know she's right for the most part. And then at home, Kathy, my wife, all the time. If I ever said boo to one of you guys, I knew I was going to hear it when I got home. The minute I got mad at one of you guys and she thought I was wrong, which I probably was, I was going to hear about it. So those two people probably more than anybody are to me, try to be for me what I am sort of to you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
And I guess coming
about
from
you,
my
Kerry?
perspective, because we were the beginning,
Right.
you were real hard on a lot of us
Right.
for a lot of different reasons. But do you realize that you've become as soft as you have?
Yeah, and it bothers me a little bit because I don't like it. I liked being a hard ass. I love that. But today's players can't handle that. They can't. Like I could talk to you the way I talk to you and demand of you what I demanded of you. And I could still do it to a certain extent to these guys, but I have to do it a different way. And
So
it
what
just
do they
takes,
do? Like,
it takes
why is it
longer.
different? What's their reaction now?
They pout more. This is the first time. Like, remember your mother? How she used to come to practice sometimes and she'd be on you. I could never be as hard on you as your mother was.
Right.
Probably.
Right.
Like where you grew up, you know how hard you were on yourself and how hard your dad may have been or your coach or somebody. I could probably never be as hard as what you grew up with. But these kids coming in today, nobody's ever been hard on them. I'm the first one. And it's hard for them to handle that. So I have to be really careful.
Well, I mean, I just know, the conversations that we've had kind of along the way, and when I get to come back to a game and, your tirade on the bench might be 30 seconds, and I just sit there and I laugh. And I'm like,
Yeah.
He would have been kneeling in front of me, and how slow I am, and I didn't pass the ball right, and did I tell you if you catch the ball to shoot it? And I mean, just on and on. And most of the time, I wouldn't even be looking at him. I'd be watching the game just because he needed to get it out. And now it's like, you do your fingers through your hair, you turn around, you shake your head at him, and you just walk. And I'm like, that's all we're getting?
Yeah. It's like when you have children and your first ones, you're like really hard on them. And then after you had like a bunch. So in my case, I've had so many kids that now I'm like,
Yeah. But it's good you can do that and still be really good.
And still be demanding.
Yeah.
You just got to do it in a different way.
Right.
But in the end, I don't know that I've ever coached anybody. And if you talk to my wife now, you talk to people that know my wife, Kathy, if they said, if there's one shot to win a national championship, even today, after all the players that we've had, there's only one player that she knows beyond a shadow of a doubt is going to make that shot, and that's Kerry Bascom.
Well, thank you.
And if there's one person that represents the unselfishness, the things that we try to teach at Connecticut about how to be a superstar, how to carry yourself, and be respectful of everybody, that would be Nykesha Sales. So you two guys are absolutely perfect representatives of Connecticut basketball, and you'll be special at Connecticut for the rest of your lives. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you for
Thanks for
having us.
having us.